Welcome to Short Movie Channel. Today's story begins with Dr. Beck. We see him at a restaurant, waiting for a woman he has an appointment with. However, she calls him on his phone, apologizes, and says, "Honestly, you and I are just not compatible at all." Dr. Beck leaves the restaurant, furious, driving his car like a maniac at top speed, cursing and shouting angrily. The scene then shifts to Sophie and her boyfriend Ryan, spending time together with their friends Jimmy, his girlfriend, and their other friend Caitlin. They're all very excited when Sophie and Caitlin receive acceptance letters to the University of Southern California. Later that night, Ryan and Sophie are driving on the road together. Ryan receives a message on his phone while driving, and as he tries to reply, Sophie tells him, "It's wrong to do that while you're driving." He dismisses her concern, saying, "Don't blow this out of proportion. It'll just take a second." But Ryan gets distracted by his phone and ends up in a horrific car crash. An ambulance quickly arrives, and both Ryan and Sophie are rushed to the hospital, screaming in pain. Dr. Beck is urgently called in. He arrives, examines Sophie, and orders the medical team to perform scans and tests as fast as possible. Sophie's parents, Adrian and her father, arrive at the hospital and learn that Sophie has a fractured rib and difficulty breathing. Jimmy confronts Sophie, asking, "Were you guys drunk?" Sophie replies, "No." He then says, "Then Ryan must have been distracted by his phone. I warned him not to do that while driving." Dr. Beck pulls Sophie's parents aside and informs them that she has a completely broken rib near her heart, and that she needs immediate surgery. Sophie is taken to the operating room, and before going in, she asks everyone to check on Ryan and see how he's doing. After the crash, Jimmy visits Ryan but is angry with him for causing the accident. Ryan apologizes profusely, but Jimmy doesn't respond and walks away. In the operating room, Dr. Beck and his team successfully perform the surgery on Sophie. Afterward, he comes out to reassure her parents that the operation went well and that she'll recover soon. Sophie is moved to the recovery room, but something strange happens. Dr. Beck goes into her room alone and gives her a romantic kiss while she's still under anesthesia. Later, he calls her parents in to see her and check on her condition. Jimmy thanks Dr. Beck for saving Sophie's life, and even her mother, Adrian, expresses her gratitude. When Sophie wakes up, she asks about Ryan and learns that he's okay but suffered a broken leg. She is told he has already been discharged from the hospital with his parents. Sophie asks if Ryan came to see her before leaving, but they tell her no, as visitors weren't allowed. Sophie says she feels like he did, but her friend Caitlin tells her it's probably just the effects of the anesthesia. In the next scene, we see Dr. Beck with a woman he recently met online. He's talking to her about his work as a famous doctor, his wealth, and showing her his luxurious villa and his fancy house in Mexico. Then, out of nowhere, he proposes to her. The woman is shocked and wonders how he could ask her to marry him so soon after they just met. When she rejects his proposal, Dr. Beck lashes out at her, shouting and insulting her in public in a very inappropriate way. She quickly gets into her car and drives away, leaving him behind. The next morning, Dr. Beck enters Sophie's room, visibly upset when she tells him that she wants to check on her friend and boyfriend, Ryan. He tells her that teenagers like Ryan are irresponsible and reckless, pointing out that Ryan is the reason she ended up in this situation. Afterward, he changes her bandages, but his behavior is unsettling. His touches on her body and the way he looks at her are inappropriate. Even Sophie's mother, when she enters the room and sees him, feels uneasy about his over-the-top and excessive behavior towards Sophie. 2 days later, Sophie is discharged from the hospital. When Beck hugs her goodbye, it's an overly dramatic hug, and her mother notices this as well. Sophie thanks Dr. Beck, expressing her gratitude and saying she's very thankful for everything he's done for her. However, Beck misinterprets her words, believing that Sophie is in love with him. He walks away, elated and lost in a world of happiness. After leaving the hospital, Sophie goes to Ryan's house to check on him. She tells him she sent him many messages and called him several times, but he didn't respond. He replies, "What can I say? I'm the reason for everything that happened to us." He apologizes to her repeatedly for what happened. They talk for a while, but Ryan eventually asks her to leave and let him be. Sophie complies, leaving upset, and Ryan is equally heartbroken. That evening, the film takes us to Dr. Beck's house. The doorbell rings, and when he opens the door, he finds Sophie standing there. She says, "I'm so sorry for coming at such a late hour." Beck welcomes her inside. She tells him, "Since I met you, I haven't been able to stop thinking about you. You're always on my mind." Beck, thrilled, hugs her and kisses her. But the twist comes when we realize it's all a figment of Beck's imagination. In reality, he's still standing on the staircase, daydreaming. When he opens the door, no one is there. 2 days later, Sophie returns to the hospital for a follow-up and thanks Dr. Beck for his help. She gives him a small teddy bear as a gift, along with a thank you note. Her mother, Adrienne, accompanies her. When Beck bids them farewell, Adrienne notices his unsettling and suspicious glances. At this point, Adrienne confronts Sophie about her concerns. Sophie responds, "That's impossible. He's older than my dad." Adrienne replies, "That's because you're still young and inexperienced, and you're too kind for your own good." In another scene, Dr. Beck is seen reading Sophie's thank you note, and it further convinces him that she's in love with him. His obsession grows to the point where he begins stalking her. One night, Sophie goes out with her friend Caitlin to a cafe. Beck shows up, pretending it's a coincidence. Sophie calls out to him and invites him to sit with them. When Caitlin goes to the restroom, Beck seizes the moment to thank Sophie for the gift and the note. He tries to hold her hand and get closer to her, even asking her out. Sophie firmly rejects him, which prompts him to leave. When Caitlin returns, Sophie tells her that Beck is very strange and that her mom might have been right about him. Meanwhile, Beck is outside, furious and devastated by her rejection. He screams hysterically, shouting, "I'm Dr. Beck, the rich and famous doctor. No one can reject me." The next morning, during breakfast, Sophie talks to her parents about Beck's behavior toward her. Her mom says, "I had a feeling this would happen from the start." Then Jim says, "I'll go talk to him." And indeed, Jim goes to Beck's place and confronts him. Beck tells him, "Your daughter is the one who's infatuated with me. She follows me everywhere I go. The proof? She gave me a teddy bear as a gift along with a love note." Jim is left speechless and doesn't know how to respond. Jim goes back to Adrienne and tells her what happened. Adrienne replies, "Beck is a liar. And if he does anything else, we'll pull Sophie's medical file and transfer her to another doctor." A few days later, Beck starts watching Sophie closely. One day, when Sophie's mom leaves the house, Beck sneaks inside without anyone noticing. He goes to Sophie's bedroom, where he sees her clothes, dresses, dolls, and toys. He touches them, lies on her bed, and starts daydreaming. Suddenly, Sophie walks in and approaches him. She acts romantically, but when Sophie and her mom return to the house, it turns out this was all a delusion in Beck's mind. Sophie was never with him. Before they discover Beck's presence, the doorbell rings. Hearing it, Beck snaps out of his fantasy, panics, and hides. Sophie opens the door to find Ryan, who says, "I need to talk to you." She lets him in, while Beck hurriedly puts on his shoes and jacket and sneaks out of the house without anyone noticing. Sophie and Ryan go to her room to talk. Ryan confesses, "I really love you." Sophie replies, "I love you too." Ryan then gives her his grandmother's precious ring as a gift and apology. Beck, however, watches them from outside, enraged when he sees their love for each other. Quietly, Beck slips out of the house just as he entered. The next day at the hospital, Beck and Ryan cross paths. Ryan is getting his leg checked by Dr. Samara. Beck walks over and introduces himself, saying, "I'm Dr. Beck, Sophie's doctor." Ryan responds, "Oh, so you're the one who tried to take my girlfriend, Sophie, on a romantic date." It's clear Sophie has told Ryan everything. Tension builds as Beck and Ryan can't stand each other. Dr. Samara comes in to examine Ryan's leg. While Ryan is distracted, Beck takes his phone, sends a nasty message about Sophie to the first chat he sees, and deletes the message immediately after sending it. The message reaches Ryan's friend, Jimmy, who happens to be sitting with Caitlin, Sophie's friend. Caitlin, shocked by the message, tells Sophie what it said. Furious, Sophie confronts Ryan, accuses him of being a liar, and breaks up with him without giving him a chance to explain. She storms off, drives away, and leaves Ryan devastated. Ryan contacts Jimmy and figures out the timing of the message, realizing it was sent while he was at the hospital. Ryan then goes to Beck's house. Surprised, Beck asks, "How did you find my address?" Ryan replies, "It's easy to find anything online these days." He accuses Beck of sending the message and causing the breakup. Ryan, furious, tries to hit Beck with his crutch but falls to the ground. Beck grabs his injured leg, threatening, "If you come here again, I'll call the police." He then throws Ryan's crutch away and leaves him lying there. Later, Beck follows Sophie to the mall and gives her a doll as a gift. Sophie, puzzled by how he knew she loves dolls, doesn't realize he had been in her room before. She refuses the gift and walks away with Caitlin. Beck becomes furious, goes to the mall bathroom, destroys the doll, and breaks down emotionally. That night, Sophie tells her parents that Beck is still stalking her. She says, "This time Caitlin was with me, and I refused his gift. We left immediately." Adrian replies, "That's it. Tomorrow, I'm pulling Sophie's medical file from the hospital. We'll find another doctor to take care of her." The next day, Sophie finally decided to put an end to the strange and suspicious behavior from Beek. She went with her mother to the hospital to retrieve her medical file and transfer her treatment to another hospital with a different doctor. Beek desperately tried to convince them to reconsider, but Sophie and her mother were determined, taking the CD and Sophie's medical file. Adrian, Sophie's mother, warned Beek that it would be better for him to stay away from her daughter. After they left the hospital, Beek stormed into his office, furious and highly agitated. He began searching for Adrian's name in the hospital records, discovering that she had been receiving regular treatment there. He also learned that she had a penicillin allergy, and decided to add penicillin to her medication in an attempt to harm her. This nearly killed Adrian, but Sophie managed to save her in time, and Adrian was rushed to the hospital for the proper care. Beek was deeply upset when he found out from a fellow doctor that Adrian had been saved and would recover. A few days later, Beek attacked Sophie in a parking garage, attempting to intimidate and kidnap her. However, she fought him off and ran to her car, quickly driving away. Meanwhile, Beek picked up her phone from the ground and got in his car to chase her. At the same time, Adrian, Sophie's mother, had been calling and sending voice messages to check on her, but the call suddenly cut off. Soon after, 2 police officers arrived at the hospital and informed Sophie's family that she had been in a car accident. The car had caught fire, and Sophie was dead. Adrian and Jimmy broke down when they saw her burned and disfigured body in the morgue. Later, the film shifts to Beek's house, where it's revealed that he had tied Sophie to the bed. He told her that he had prepared all the necessary travel documents to take her with him to Mexico so they could live together. Beek had taken the body of another girl from the morgue, placed it in Sophie's car, and set it on fire after drugging Sophie and putting her in the vehicle. When the hospital returned Sophie's belongings to her family, Ryan noticed the ring wasn't the one his grandmother had given Sophie. When they went to the hospital, they discovered that the autopsy report had been written by Beek. Ryan and Adrian decided to go to Beek's house. When Beek saw them, he drugged Sophie again, placed her in a box, and opened the door for them. He pretended to be deeply affected by Sophie's death, which caused Adrian to sympathize with him. The next morning, Beek served Sophie breakfast. As soon as he let go of one of her hands, she grabbed a knife and tried to stab him, but he stopped her, holding her hand and saying, "It looks like I've been too lenient with you. It's time to show you my other side." He went to get his surgical tools and a sedative to drug her again, but when he returned, she was gone. He frantically searched for her, and suddenly, Sophie appeared and attacked him with a metal rod, beating him with intense anger until he lost consciousness. She took the keys to the house and car from his pocket, and finally escaped, returning to her home amidst her funeral arrangements. When her father, mother, and Ryan saw her, they ran to her and embraced her, shocked that she was still alive. Later, the police raided Beek's house, but he wasn't there. Beek was shown in Mexico, living in his delusions, convinced that Sophie still loved him and would come to Mexico to be with him because, in his mind, she couldn't live without him. This concluded the events of the first part of the movie. If you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.